Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for coming out to share with the Lincoln High School Alumni Association its observance of Women's History Month. Last year, we started a series of forums to revisit the history of this school and this town and this community, and we did 3. This will be the 4th one. I'll tell you about the other 3 in a little bit. But first, I want to present James L. Green, who's the president of the Lincoln Alumni Association. He's one of the hardest working men in the association. And he's working on a project right now, so I'm not going to keep him, but he is going to welcome you at this time, and then we'll get started. So, Brother Green.
Good afternoon. Y'all ever been glad I was in the military one time, but I walk in the door, jump over, you're doing the welcome this afternoon. Always have to be prepared. On behalf of the Lincoln Alumni Association, our friends, and our family, we want to welcome each and every one of you out this afternoon for this Women's History Month celebration. We are in the community not only for ourselves, we're reaching out to the community for help, and we reach out to be part of the community. We got a lot of projects we going on to try to make it more better to make this a community center. But the only thing I'm going to say, thank you all for coming out. Welcome, welcome, welcome. If anyone can be able to assist with you, feel free to let some of us know. Thank you all and welcome again.
All right.
That was short and sweet. First, how many of you have spent some time in this building? Raise your hands high. All right, all except 2. 2 young ones. All right, so you know, understand, and appreciate this building and what we're trying to do here to preserve it. And so, if you don't have a membership, the membership table out in front there, you can sign up tonight. And not just memberships, but we accept contributions. We need contributions. They're tax deductible. Okay? So, getting that out of the way. Tonight we are going to celebrate 12 African-American females who have sunk their ties, connections, or made major contributions to South Carolina's growth and development from a civil rights standpoint and otherwise. Each of the honorees were assigned, each one was assigned to a member of the committee. We do the legwork, do the research, find photos of them, and tonight they will present them to you. We appreciate what the item did in giving us good coverage, and as a result, I see many of you here this evening. So we'll begin with the first honoree, Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune. And she is going to be presented by Bertha.
Good evening. Good evening. It's a pleasure to be able to present information to you about Mary McLeod Bethune, because I don't have to put a little bit, because you already know every time someone does a report, it's about Mary McLeod Bethune. And it's also a pleasure and good to be first, because I'm going to be good, and the others are going to be better and best yet. And thirdly, I wore this purposely, this glitter blouse, so you can remember something about what you can say, well, which she had on a nice glitter little outfit. So it was a purpose for all of me being here first, okay? So, but I'm going to try to share some information in addition to what you already know about our own Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune. And if you're good and attentive, I'm Now this is unusual talking to older people. You know, I'm a middle school person. So I'm going to try to do my best to enlighten you with some of Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune's achievements. Born Mary Jane McLeod in Maysville, South Carolina. You all know that's that little town that you be speeding down 78 going to Florence real fast, and all of a sudden, whoo, you got to slow it down. You got to go through about a couple of miles through Maysville on the east of us, about 12 miles east of us, okay? On a rice and cotton farm, so that's hopefully, you know, we had rice in South Carolina down the road there, rice and cotton farm in a small log cabin. The 15th of 17 children. And the parents are the Sam and Patsy McIntosh McLeod, and both were former slaves. Most of her siblings, sisters and brothers, were born into slavery. Her mother worked for her former owner, and her father farmed cotton near a large house they called the homestead. Her parents desired to be independent, also known as an entrepreneur. So they worked hard and sacrificed to buy a farm for the family. And as a child, Mary would accompany her mother to deliver white people's wash, and she was allowed to go into the white children's nursery. Mary became fascinated with their toys, but one day she picked up a book and she opened it, and the white child took it away from her, saying she didn't know how to read. It was that moment that Mary decided that the only difference between white and colored folks was the ability to read. This was where Mary's inspiration came from. School. After demonstrating a desire to read and write, Mary attended Maysville's one-room schoolhouse known as Trinity Mission School that was ran by the Presbyterian Board of Mission of Freedom. She was the only child in her family to attend school, and so she taught the other family members how to read. To get to school, Mary walked 8 miles each day. And Mary, our teacher, became a significant mentor in her life, Emma Jane Wilson. After attending the Maysville one-room school, Mary received scholarship to further her education. She went to Scotia Seminary, now known as Barbara Scotia College. She arranged for Mary, Miss Wilson, to attend the same school on a scholarship which she did for 1888 and 1893. The following year, she attended Dwight L. Moody's Institute for Home and Foreign Mission in Chicago. This same Maysville person traveling all over in Chicago. I haven't been to Chicago, yes I did one time. Now the Moody Baptist Institute hoped to become a missionary in Africa. However, she was told she would not be able to go because black missionaries were not needed. So she instead planned to teach. Bethune's first position as a teacher was for a brief time at her former elementary school in Sumter County. In 1896, she began teaching at Haynes Normal and Industrial Institute in Augusta, Georgia. But she was sent back after her tenure there to Sumter, South Carolina, where she taught for 2 years at Kendall Institute, 1896 through 1898, before marrying a fellow teacher, Albertus Bethune, in 1898, and they had one son. In 1904, Mary, they ventured with her husband, she's in Florida now, okay? She rented a small house for $11 per month, and she made benches and desks out of discarded crates and obtaining items through charity. During the school year, Bethune used $1.50 to start the literary and industrial training school for Negro girls in Daytona, Florida, which is known as Bethune-Cookman College today. The school boarded near the Daytona dump, and Bethune parents and church members, they raised money for making sweet potato pies. But Mary wrote letters, and she considered, she needed money, but Mary said when she wrote later, I considered cash money as the smallest part of my resources. I had faith in a living God, faith in myself, and a desire to serve. The school after that received numerous donations. She received donations from James Gamble of Procter & Gamble, Thomas H. White of the White Sewing Machine, Booker T. Washington, and also later she received money from the John D. Rockefeller, $62,000. And she did also have money from her friend, the Roosevelts. Public leader. In 1896, National Association of Colored Women, excuse me, I might need this. Okay, Bethune served as it was formed. In 1896, the National Association of Colored Women, NACW, was formed to promote the dual needs of black women. Bethune served as the Florida chapter president of the NACW from 1917 to 1925. Okay, that's one of her public service. She was also invited to attend the Child Welfare Conference called by President Calvin Coolidge. Now this is the lady from Maysville. Listen to all the presidents that she has served with. And this is one mentioned, 1928 to 1930. Calvin Coolidge. Herbert Hoover also appointed her to the White House Conference on Child Care. Bethune founded the National Council of Negro Women in New York City in 1935, bringing together 28 different organizations to form a council to facilitate the improvement of quality of life for women and their communities. In 1938, the National Council of Negro Women hosted the White House Conference on Negro Women and Children, significantly displaying the presence of black women in democratic roles. Not the First Lady, Michelle Obama. This is, and I guess I say to myself, this is the second lady, Mary McLeod Bethune, who hosted the White House Conference on Negro Women. Okay? We're talking about the lady from Maysville. These are some of her achievements and things that she has done. The Black Cabinet. Bethune played a dual role as close and loyal friend of Eleanor and Franklin Roosevelt. Eleanor Roosevelt respected Bethune to the extent that the segregations of the Southern Conference on Human Welfare in 1938 being held in Birmingham, Alabama were changed on Roosevelt's request so she could sit next to Bethune. Roosevelt frequently referred to Bethune as her closest friend in her age group. Bethune, in her turn, took it upon herself to disperse the message of the Democratic Party to black voters and make the concerns of black people known to the Roosevelt at the same time. She had unprecedented access to the White House through her relationship with the First Lady. She used it to form a coalition of leaders from black organizations called the Federal Council on Negro Affairs, but which came to be known as the Black Cabinet. Remember earlier, Mary McLeod Bethune solicited funds, and the Roosevelts were one that gave her funds, and she became a close friend with them, and they brought her to Washington, where she served as the president. And as you read, and Felder and Moses put in the paper, that it was Mary McLeod Bethune's connection with Eleanor, that she told them to her concern that we didn't have any black generals in the army. And so Eleanor talked to her husband, President Roosevelt, and that's how we got the first black general. But I want the ladies to know that we were not forgotten. She also talked with, encouraged the president to formed the, the women. She wanted officers for black women also in the military, okay? Mary McLeod Bethune, she dedicated her life to the education of both whites and blacks about the accomplishment and needs. Okay, I'm about finished. I'm telling you about some. She received numerous awards. And if you all, I'm sorry.
That's all. I'll get it.
Pass these out. This is the part where you help a little bit. Okay. Mary McLeod Bethune received numerous of awards. Too numerous to mention. She received the, I'll just name a few of them. She was awarded the Spring Arm Medal in 1935 by the NAACP. Mary McLeod Bethune was the only black woman present at the founding of the United Nations in San Francisco in 1945. Representing the NAACP with W. Du Bois and Walter White. In 1949, she became the first woman to be given the Medal of Honor and Merit at the Haitian Exposition, Haiti's highest award. She served as United States emissary to the induction of President William B.S. Tubman of Liberia in 1949. She also served as an advisor to 5 presidents of the United States: Calvin Coolidge, Franklin D. Roosevelt, Theodore Roosevelt, Herbert Hoover. That's what, 3, 4, okay. Now, all these honors and recognition, Dr. Bethune was glad to receive them, but she said, as some of you noticed on the paper that was passed out to you, Bethune had little material to offer, saying, "My worldly possessions are few," but she understood that her greatest treasure was a set of principles and policies, which represented the meaning of her life's work. Those principles are listed below. For on each principle, you can read her last and will testament. You have to, there's more information about each one. You have to go ahead and on the internet and Google that. So as my life draws to a close, I will pass them on to Negroes everywhere in the hope that an old woman's philosophy may give them inspiration. Here, then, this is my legacy. Okay, number 1, the person that has number 1, would you please read that? And then number 2, 3, 4. Do you have a number 1 on your paper?
I leave you love.
Okay. Number 2,
I leave you hope.
3. There's not a number 3. It's got, okay, 3 says, I leave you the challenge of developing confidence in one another. 4.
I leave you a thirst for education.
5.
I leave you respect for the uses of power.
6.
I leave you faith.
7.
I leave you racial dignity.
8.
I leave you a desire to live harmoniously with your fellow men.
And 9.
I leave you finally a responsibility to our young people.
Okay, so as you know, we talked about Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune, the young lady that came from Maysville, South Carolina. And as reading some of the beginning part, you notice these challenges that she had to undergo, but she did not stop at these challenges. They inspired her, they encouraged her to move forward. A Maysville person having the desire to do more. First she wanted to be educated. Then she shared that education. Then she wanted to do public work. She got connected with the people in the White House. Several of them was 5 presidents. And she always remembered she had a desire, like her building testament, it was just for being of service and helping all people. Thank you.
We thank the middle school teacher from her election. We do have a certificate honoring Dr. Bethune, and the person who's receiving it, phone number, is one of her grand nieces, Una Coakley, Magdalene Coakley Newman. Okay.
And I thank you all for celebrating my great-grand aunt.
Her sisters, Rose and Alfina, will be here later. Had an early commitment. One other thing about Dr. Bethune, her last visit to, did you cover that? I was outside.
No.
Bertha, did you cover her last? Her last visit to Sumter was 1955. It was April 1955, over at Mount Pisgah. Fred James, Reverend then Fred James, now Bishop James, and the mayor of Sumter, Priscilla Shaw, brought her to Sumter. It was her last visit. A great staff from the Echo newspaper interviewed her. That staff included John Gibson, James Gibson, Julius Capers. Who was the third person? I can't remember the third person. And I took the picture at Mount Pisgah. That was her last visit. That was April. She died, 6 weeks later, I guess it was. But we did get a chance to see her before passing on. Next honoree is Dr. Agnes Hildebrand Wilson Burgess, and Maggie Ellison will make that presentation.
I'm honored to speak on behalf of Dr. Burgess. I met Dr. Burgess when I was in 8th grade in the building right out here. She was my English teacher. She was an educator. I'm just reading from these notes right here at the moment. In 1969, she was elected Teacher of the Year. And as it stated, she was the first for African Americans. That was the first for African Americans in South Carolina. Also, that same year, she was elected President of the SCEA, which is the South Carolina Education Association. And she presided over the merger of the Palmetto Education Association with the South Carolina Teachers Association, which was the white group. Now, during her tenure here at Lincoln High School, she served as an advisor to the school's newspaper, the Echo. And during that time that she was serving as an advisor, they would go to, I think it's New York or National Convention. And students usually won quite a few prizes, awards, I would say. Did 13 consecutive first place association competitions at Columbia University Scholastic Press meetings. It just seems sort of normal for me to come and talk about her, because after I graduated from college, my second job was here at Lincoln High School as a math teacher. And let me back up a minute. But when I was in her class, see, Dr. Burgess, and some of you know that, she liked for things to be done correctly. When I said things, not only the lesson, but she liked for you to walk correctly, speak correctly, don't kill the King's English, with the use the correct verbs and all of that. even, when I would go to her desk to ask her something, she's very nice about it, very kind person, she's nice about it. When you would go to her desk to ask her something, if you had your sentence wrong, or your paragraph wrong, she would, tell you what should go where. And of course, she expected you to remember that when it was time for the test. And when I was at Morris, the French teacher had to leave and go home because of illness in the family and stay for a while. They had to hire a new French teacher, but in the process of waiting for the permanent hire to come in for that French class, it was at night, and one night Mrs. Iver came in and taught the class. They were all, they all were certified to teach on the college level. They had master's degrees. Okay, and well, that was fine. You'll notice Ivy's very likable person, wasn't a likable person, we get along well with her. And then, I think before the permanent teacher came, the next time I went to my class, there sat Dr. Burgess. She was the French teacher for that night. And there were times when she would say certain words in French, to the English class, and we would have to, she would tell us what it meant if we were not taking French. And then she wanted us to learn as many words as we could anyway, so that when we heard them, at least we would know what they meant. She also, my youngest sister, who graduated in '61, I heard her talking one day with some of her friends, and they were laughing about how Dr. Burgess called them aside and told them that they were laughing the wrong way. Seriously. And I can't, it went one or two ways. She said, don't laugh with the ha ha ha, laugh with the he ha ha. They were supposed to change the tune of their laugh, change the note as they laugh, as if you're singing or something and whatnot. But I liked her because she didn't fuss and like some people do, and she would answer any question that you want answered. And what I learned, from being around her was that she wanted you to do things the right way. And I guess that was just the teacher in her. Okay, after I retired in 1962, I joined the association that's still going. They had that meeting yesterday. It's called the Sumter County Education Association Retired. Okay, Dr. Burgess was a member of that association. Then as time went by, the person who was the president, it came time for election of new officers after a period of time. So one day when after leaving the meeting and I went home, before I left the meeting, she told me, I'm going to give you a call when you get home, before the evening get long. And sure enough, while I was in the kitchen cooking dinner, she called. But of course, I was worried about what she wanted the whole time. And then I got not really worried, but started thinking. After she told me, she said, "Oh, I want you to run for the office of president of this association." And I didn't know she called Louise Williams also and told her she would like for her to run for the office of secretary. And of course, I felt, and of course I didn't have the nerve to say no. I mean, that would have been, I think, total disrespect if I had said that. But as I said earlier, she wanted you to perfection, all that you do, and she